I'm part of the pre-sales team here at Wazuh, and today I'm going to walk you through this amazing platform that is the Wazuh solution, okay? So before we start, I want to thank our partner Vecto for the space, and also all of you for your time, okay? We really appreciate it, and again, thank you so much for your participation. And okay, let's do it. In today's session, we're going to cover many aspects of the Wazuh solution, where it all started, the main capabilities of this platform, of this solution, the importance of open source in today's cybersecurity ecosystem, and we will also see the solution working in real time and helping with different, let's say, use cases, okay? So if you guys have any questions, feel free to use the chat box, and after the demonstration, we can use a few minutes to clarify any doubts that you may have, okay? So, all right, let's do it. What is Wazuh? Wazuh is the same, both are acceptable, are correct. Wazuh is a very scalable and customizable SIEM and XDR solution. It is completely open source, which means that we don't need to pay a license to install or use it. The solution is developed by the company with the same name, okay? So even though it is open source, there are people working exclusively on improving the solution and supporting it. So the business model relies on working together with partners like Vecto and offering services such as support contracts, the addition of new features, and the cloud version of Wazuh, which is our SaaS service, okay? And I can also mention here that the solution is being used by some of the largest companies in the world, such as Visa, eBay, Salesforce, Apple, Cisco, etc. As other users and companies, these are constantly suggesting improvements and also auditing the code of the solution, okay? Our GitHub repository includes all the source code of the solution, so you can freely take a look at it and verify the different components, the different aspects of the solution, okay? I will show you that in a minute as well. So, talking about some use cases of the solution, we can use Wazuh for various or multiple use cases, actually. For example, just to cite a few of them, monitoring the events in our servers, workstations, or applications, so we can receive an alert about an error or something suspicious, such as a lateral movement, authentication events, or a possible rootkit or virus detected, okay? Even something like something more complex like a brute force attack, okay? Another use case could be monitoring cloud infrastructure. So I can monitor my infrastructure, for example, AWS, GCP, Google Cloud, right? Azure, Office 365, and so on. So I will be able to see what is happening in my instances, my containers, and the services that are right there, okay? For example, Active Directory, Kubernetes on cloud, CloudTrail, CloudWatch, etc. So continuing with the use cases, I can also mention that another one could be vulnerability detection, so we can detect vulnerabilities on the operating systems, or another one could be something related to compliances and regulations, such as GDPR, okay, for Europe, NIST, PCI DSS, among others. And it means that we can correlate data based on the Wazuh alerts and the different compliances requirements for all of those, GDPR, PCI DSS, NIST, etc. Okay? But we're going to explore these capabilities in deep in a couple of minutes, okay? So this is just an overview. Continue. All right. And it is important to know at least a little bit about the history of Wazuh. The solution started 9 years ago in the USA as a fork of the OSEC project, okay? The OSEC project, as you may know, it was or it is a IDS solution, so Wazuh started as a fork of that project, okay? And the result is a much more complete, easy to use, reliable, and scalable solution. And the solution was widely adopted among the open source, community and quickly became a widely used solution in enterprise environments as well. So this graph is very interesting because we can see how the project started in 2015, and a couple of years later, it surpassed the original project, the OSEC project, okay? So today, WASA has one of the largest cybersecurity communities in the world, okay? Following or continuing with that topic, the largest open source security community in the world. Just in the last year, actually, the solution was downloaded more than 20 million times, and more than 100,000 organizations are using the solution in production. And these companies, these users, are suggesting improvements, asking for new capabilities, testing the software, and contributing with iterations, rules, use cases, and so on. So this is something also collaborative, okay? And the platform is constantly evolving and improving. So if you look at our GitHub repository, you will notice that the latest changes are usually just a couple of minutes ago. That's incredible, actually. And it also means that we are able, or let's say that we are 20 times faster than the second biggest open source security project, which is OSQuery, okay? As you may know, OSQuery, great solution though. And one more thing about this, we are very proud to share that the solution is being used by Fortune 100 companies. So they are monitoring millions of assets at the same time. And this also gives us the idea of how scalable the solution is, okay? And all right, let's continue. Second question. All right, perfect. Let's continue. The platform and the architecture. I always mention that it is very important to know the WASA's architecture. It is important to know how it works under the hood, because WASA is composed by different components interacting with each other, okay? And you can see here this diagram, this architecture, and we can identify on the right side, the WASA central components. The WASA central components, okay? And here we have the WASA server, the WASA indexer, the WASA dashboard, and on the left side, we have the endpoints. Or we can see that on the left side, we have the data source. And we can collect data from multiple sources at the same time. That's something incredible about WASA. We cannot just monitor workstations and endpoints. We can also collect data and monitor network devices, cloud instances, cloud services, applications, databases, and so on. So I always mention that WASA is like the heart of the environment because it will be connected to almost anything in our company, in our network, in our environment, okay? So talking about an important component of the WASA solution, we can talk about the agent. The WASA agent is a really lightweight application that we can install in various operating systems, such as Windows, Linux, Mac OS, various Linux distros, Windows. We can talk about Windows servers, Windows Home, Windows XP, even Windows XP, okay? It's supported as well. And also some other operating systems that are not that popular. For example, Mac OS, not Mac OS actually, Oracle Solaris, HP EUX, and AIX, okay? They are all supported as well. So it means that we can install the WASA agent, that really lightweight piece of software, and we can start collecting the logs from the operating system and also perform other actions related to the XDR part of WASA. Because WASA is not just a SIEM solution, but also an XDR. And we are going to explore some of these features in a little bit. But another thing to mention here is that we are not just collecting data from the operating system perspective, like authentication events, errors, user changes, etc., but also the applications. So it means that I can monitor the applications that are running in one of my servers. To give you an example, if I'm running, I don't know, IIS, okay, the web service, or if I'm running Apache, MySQL, or any other antivirus or databases, I can configure the WASA agent to also collect the data that that application is generating, okay? For example, Apache. So I can define the Apache log directory, and the WASA agent is going to start collecting the information from that file and forwarding that data to the WASA manager, okay? So that's interesting. Operating system perspective and application perspective. Another approach is monitoring the network devices. And for that use case, we can do something that we call the agentless device approach. And it basically means that we can start collecting data from network devices directly without using an agent. As you may know, I cannot install a WASA agent or an application in my FortiGate firewalls or switches, Cisco, or I don't know, access points, Huawei, for example. Okay, that's not possible. But what we can do is use the protocol syslog. Okay, that's a standard for sending logs. And I can start receiving those logs directly with the WASA manager, again, without using an agent. But the result is the same thing. I will be able to monitor what is happening in my network devices, okay? Another approach is using the WASA API. And that's very important for various use cases, including cloud monitoring. Because in terms of cloud security, we can do two different things. The first one is monitoring the instances that are running in my EC2, for example, EC2 environment in AWS. So I can do log collection, all the features related to the agent, because at the end of the day, I can install an agent in those instances. But I can also use the WASA API and start collecting data directly from the cloud services providers, AWS, Azure, Office 365, and so on. And it means that I can visualize or I can monitor what is happening in my infrastructure. For example, Active Directory. I will be able to see all the authentication events. I will be able to see the public IP address, the geolocation parameter, user changes, group policy configurations, and things like that. The same thing happens with any other service that is running in AWS, Azure, or GCP, okay? So that's something very, very interesting about this. And for this use case, we can use the WASA API. So it means that we have some modules prepared for these cloud services providers, okay? And just to summarize this section, there are various ways of collecting data from multiple sources. So here we are collecting information from these different sources. And as I said, the second component here is the WASA server. And actually, from my point of view, this is the main component of the solution because the WASA server, the WASA manager, is the one that includes the analysis engine. The analysis engine is basically where the magic happens. It's a feature, a component, a engine that is going to extract information from the received logs, okay? And it's going to split the data in multiple fields. So then we can check some conditions for triggering alerts. I don't know, authentication event, error, configuration changes, virus detected, etc. This is something that is happening within the analysis engine. And just so you know, WASA includes more than 4,500 rules in place out of the box, okay? And those rules are supporting the most popular vendors and applications. For example, Palo Alto, SonicWall, databases, Microsoft SQL Server, Apache, Nginx, and so on. The list is very extensive. But a very important thing about the analysis engine, this is one of the greatest things about WASA actually, is that it can be customized according to our needs. So it means that I can create new conditions according to my own needs. For example, an authentication event, a common authentication event is just a level 5, okay, in terms of the rules classification. But I can define new conditions for my case. For example, I can create a whitelist of IP addresses so it can trigger a higher level alert like a level 10 if the IP address that I'm trying to SSH one of my servers is not included in that list, okay? That means that it is totally customizable. Another use case or another condition could be to check the time. So something that is happening at 2 a.m. on the morning is not the same thing as something that is happening within my working hours, right? So I can configure that option. I can define my working hours and I can trigger that higher level alert depending on the time, okay? There are various things that we can configure for the original WASA rule set. But that's a scenario when I want to customize. But how about monitoring a device or application that is not supported by default by WASA? That is not a big deal because we can create a new entire rule set according to our new application or network device or service that we want to monitor, okay? An example that I usually mention is, okay, let's suppose that I have two 2 Palo Alto firewalls, and 1 router Cisco. And I know that we are supporting Palo Alto and Cisco by default, but I also use a switch, I don't know, Huawei, okay, the brand Huawei. And since that is not that popular, probably we don't have a decoder in place for Huawei routers. But as I said, that is not a big deal because I can create the new parsers for that application, for that network device. And the result will be the same, generate alerts based on the data that is coming from the Huawei routers, okay? And we are open source. So there are various things that are shared directly by the community. So I always suggest to take a look at the different community posts, blogs, and let's say web pages or communities, because we will find various contributions shared by the users and community users. For example, decoders for Huawei, rules, use cases, and so on. And that's something part of the open source way of doing things, okay? Something very, very interesting. So it could be, or it's probably that we don't need to create a new entire rule set for that application. So you will find various contributions shared by the community. All right, so that's the WASA server, where the magic happens, basically. Then we are saving the alerts information within the indexer, the WASA indexer. This is the very powerful search engine that we can use to perform queries, search for a specific information, store all the details about the alert, and also here we can define or we can configure the retention policies according to our needs. If I don't know, if I'm following PCI DSS, okay, maybe I will need to configure a retention policy of 90 days of hot storage and 1 year of archives or cold storage, okay? That is something that I can define here within the WASA indexer. And the last component is the WASA dashboard. This is the general UI that we can use to monitor the different assets of our environment, to create and visualize the dashboards for monitoring the alerts, even on real time. And I can use this for configuring the solution with the UI, okay? So I don't need to access in the backend and use the CLI. I can directly use the WASA UI for that one, okay? So this is the architecture. I didn't mention actually, but we can also configure the service, or we can configure the architecture as a cluster, or the components as a cluster. So we can provide load balancing and high availability, okay? It's truly customizable depending of our needs and depending of the amount of assets that we are going to monitor. So it's truly feasible as well. All right. Let's continue with the demonstration. So I think it's a good time to start the demo and see how the system works in real time with some real scenarios, okay? So let me switch this. All right. Okay. Well, here we are, the WASA solution. This is the login page of the solution. Since WASA has a web service UI, we can access it through a web browser, okay? And, well, the login page. Just so you know, we can create many users roles with different permissions, such as administrator, simply ring permissions, or we can also limit access to certain functions or functionalities of the solution. And a scenario that I always mention is, supposing that I have, I don't know, 3 different teams in my company, okay? We have the network team, IT support team, and the last one, the security team. I can create something like roles for each of these teams. The first one will be just read-only for the IT support team. The second one will be for the network team, and with the capability to monitor the data that is coming from certain IP addresses, or let's say the data that is coming from the router, switches, and access points. That's it, okay? And the other one will be full access with admin privileges, and that one will be for the security team, so they can monitor everything in our environment, okay? So it is very customizable in terms of user management, authentications. We can also integrate WASA with Active Directory. We can use single sign-on, okay, and MFA in terms of authentication methods. So that's something very interesting about this. In this case, I will use a administrator account. So let me log in. All right. And as you can see, there is a health check at the beginning, a general check of some important parts, such as the API connections and index patterns. And it is useful to give us an idea that there is no big issue in the system, because we know that there are various components in the WASA solution. So we have to verify that everything is working as expected, okay? Especially the API communication. So this is fine, it's working as expected. Great. Now we are on the main page of the platform, okay? And on the top, we can see the agents details, such as the number of agents connected at this moment, how many are active or disconnected, and below, we have the 4 main sections of the solution. Again, since we are not just a SIEM solution, but also an XDR, it means that we have various capabilities more than just log collection and alert generation. You can see here, I don't know, file integrity monitoring. We can use this one to monitor some specific directories or files, even on real time, so we can receive an alert if something is happening, like a file was downloaded in your finance server, okay, or in your Windows server, in the downloads directory. So I can receive an alert immediately and verify what is happening right there, okay? Another great module, SEA, Security Configuration Assessment. This is a module that is going to perform some checks based on CIS benchmarks. So we can see the result of the configurations in our servers and applications. And this is great to identify misconfigurations and also to reduce the attack surface, okay? An example is, I don't know, ensure that you are not allowing root users for SSH communications, for example. That is a suggestion. So we will see the result failed, and we will see what we need to do in order to fix it, okay? Great module, SEA. And I don't know, here we have the integrations with cloud services providers, AWS, Office 365, GCP. This is the section for threat detection and response. Here we have the module to scan vulnerabilities, Docker Listener, the MITRE framework. This is something included by default and very important because we can correlate the WASA alerts with the different MITRE techniques and tactics, okay? I will show you this, how it works in a minute, but great module. VirusTotal. VirusTotal is just an example of a threat intelligence feed, okay? But in case of VirusTotal, as you may know, they have 2 versions, the paid one and the free tier with some limitations, but there are more options. For example, threat intelligence feeds are important because we will be able to correlate data with indicators of compromises. Let's say malicious IP addresses, malicious domain name, email addresses, file hashes, and so on. And an additional application that I usually suggest is MISP, M-I-S-P. They are totally open source, and we can use it to define even various feeds at the same time. And a scenario could be, I don't know, maybe I want to monitor the DNS queries in my users on my operating systems, let's say, and I can use the threat intelligence feed to correlate the data and verify if that DNS domain name is malicious or not, okay? So I can take actions based on that information. Very, very interesting use case, okay? So what else? Yeah, regulatory compliance. This is the section for all the different regulatory compliances. And you can see that we are supporting by default, or we're including dashboards for PCI DSS, NIST, GDPR, TSC, and HIPAA, okay? And I know that GDPR is very important in Europe. PCI DSS is mostly related to the payment in industry, okay, the finance industry, HIPAA for the healthcare sector, and so on. But this means that we have these modules in place. It doesn't mean that WASA cannot help us with ISO 27001, for example, okay? It just means that we don't have an integration in place, but it's still helping us with those different compliance requirements, okay? That is something very important to know. And okay, well, I think that we can start with security events, since this is the most used module of the whole product, okay? Here we have like a summary of what is happening in our entire infrastructure, okay? For example, if in this section I choose to filter or maybe I want to change the time range. You can see that I can define the last 15 minutes, 90 days. I can select a specific date, for example. Here we have the option to use filters, and it means that I can search for a specific data. I don't know, if I filter by IP address, okay, my IP address, I will be able to see all the alerts that are related to that IP address. I don't know, alerts from Active Directory applications, databases, authentication events, firewall events, and so on. That's very important for investigation, okay? Maybe I want to filter by geolocation so I can identify all the alerts that are coming from a specific country, okay? And I can use as many filters as I want. And here we have this section, the search box, so we can create queries, okay? And it also supports various parameters, conditions such as Boolean, and, or, not, if not, etc. Very, very customizable and powerful at the same time. So here we have the detail of the alerts, okay, in this period of time, and I can see the amount of alerts, the alerts that are level 12 and above. And I think that I just mentioned this, but in Wazuh, we classify the alerts based on their severity, okay? So these are numbers in a range of 0 and 15. So 15 is the higher one in terms of the security importance, security relevance, okay? And actually, we have this documentation. I will send you all of these links at the end of the meeting, okay? But you can see that this is the rule classification. For example, level 0, we use level 0 to avoid false positives. Level 3, this is related to authentication events, okay, authentication attempt. And the one that I just mentioned, 15, is a severe attack. So this is very important to identify my priorities, okay? This is the detail of authentication failure events, and the same thing happens here with authentication success. So let me do something like, okay, supposing that I'm monitoring authentication events, maybe I want to check at the MITRE ATT&CK dashboard, because here I can identify the different techniques and how these techniques are related with the alerts in my environment. And I can see that I have a bunch of alerts related to password guessing, authentication events, right, SSH, store data manipulation, system binary proxy execution, brute force attack, what else, PowerShell, and so on. So let me filter by SSH, and you can see how immediately the filter was applied and how immediately the data or the dashboard changed, okay? So here we can see the alert evolution over the time. Maybe I can see something suspicious here, so it'll be a great idea to filter this region. And again, you can see how the data changed, okay? The dashboard changed. So we have two options, password guessing, SSH. Here I can see the top 5 agents, Debian, Red Hat, CentOS, the alert evolution over the time with the agent's details. So this is great for monitoring and investigation at the same time. So here we have all the alerts information related to those filters. But I want to go to the events tab, because here we have even more information about the alerts, okay? Let me see. Here we have different options that we can use for filtering data. These are the alerts. So I can see here, for example, this one. Let me expand this and I can start explaining what it includes. Here we have the time, okay, the agent name, the host name, the rule description, the rule level. In this case, this is a level 5, and the rule ID, okay? So the description says attempt login using a not existent user. Okay, fine. And how is this composed? On the left side, we have the field names. On the right side, we have the value, or let's say the content of the field. For example, country, agent IP, source IP, etc. But I want to start with full log, okay? Full log is basically the original information, is the raw data, is the data that was received from the different sources, network devices, operating systems, applications, and so on, okay? This is the original information, the raw data. So based on this information, the Wazuh's analysis engine extracted the different fields. For example, here I can identify the IP address, and it is included right here, okay? IP address. The same thing happens with the port, What else? The user config. This is weird, but it is what it is, right? User config, etc. And one more thing is that Wazuh is helping with the enrichment of the original event. So based on the public IP address, for example, you can see that Wazuh added the geolocation parameter. So it wasn't included at the beginning. So I can do something like, I don't know, maybe I want to verify the countries. So let me add this as a column here. And I can see that this IP address, okay, is coming from China. Okay, that's weird, right? Let me do the same thing with the IP address because I want to identify that, yes, this is probably a brute force attack. So this is the same IP address. This is from China, India, South Korea, the USA, and so on. And it is important to know that Wazuh is not just capable of monitoring the infrastructure. We can also use the Wazuh XDR section and define some automatic actions to address threats. A quick example. Based on these weird authentication attempts, okay, that are coming from countries that are not mine, I don't know, from the USA, Argentina, any part of Europe, I don't know, I can configure some active responses, okay? Active responses are basically the main part of the XDR part of Wazuh. So I can define some actions to be executed based on some particular or specific alerts, okay? In case of brute force attack alerts, maybe I want to start blocking the adversary IP address directly on the firewall, on the local firewall, okay? Or in case that a virus was detected, maybe I want to isolate the agent from the network for at least a couple of minutes. I don't know, okay? So we are going to explore this topic in a few minutes with some examples, but now you know that we cannot just monitor, we can also take actions based on something that is happening related to the Wazuh alerts, okay? That's something very interesting about Wazuh. Let me expand this again, and I will scroll down to show you more details included here. For example, the different compliances requirements, and I can see here PCI DSS, the compliance requirements related to PCI DSS, TLC, NIST, the MITRE framework, okay, the MITRE technique and tactic, password guessing, SSH, credential access, lateral movement. And I can also see here that we are not sending emails, okay? Email notification is not configured for this particular alert, but it can be configured based on the specific rule ID for this one, or maybe based on the threshold. So Wazuh can send email notifications for all the level 10 or level 12 and above alerts, for example, okay? And we cannot just use email, we can also configure an additional application like Slack, okay, or maybe Microsoft Teams. That's also feasible and compatible. Actually, I always mention that in case of Microsoft Teams, that is not that, how to say it, it's not an official guide from the Wazuh team, but it's a contribution from the community. So just as an example, there are various things like that that you will find in various blog posts shared by communities, okay, including the Microsoft Teams iteration. So great thing about this. All right. Now I would like to show you how we're doing with the time. Okay. Now I want to show you the agents section. So let me go within the agent section. And here we can see the different agents that are connected to my server. I can identify their status, their host names, IP addresses, groups, operating systems, cluster nodes, the Wazuh agent version, and so on. Just to point out here, groups or groups of configurations. This is great because this can be very interesting for managing the configuration of agents. So it means that I can create groups based on different aspects. I don't know, the location of the agent, the city, the department, the operating system, the what else, the application. You can see here that I have a default group for all my agents. It doesn't matter the operating system. But then I have some specific ones, for example, for Red Hat agents, for Apache applications. So it means that the operating systems that are running Apache are going to download this configuration. Or I will better say that if I have some applications that are running Apache, I can just create a group, and within that group of configurations, I can add the Apache directory, okay? So it is going to start collecting the logs that are part of that directory or that file. So this is great for managing the different configurations in a better way, okay? So the same thing happens here with MySQL, which is the database, okay? It is not collected by default by Wazuh because it's not part of the operating system, but I can just create a new group, assign the directory, and that's it, okay? Well, assign the agents, they are going to download the new configuration. So great thing to use the groups configuration. Let me take a look at this agent, the Red Hat agent, because here I want to show you how it looks like, how the agent section looks like, and all the different modules that are related to this agent, okay? In this case, this Red Hat agent. And I can see here the MITRE framework with the different tactics related to alerts that are coming from that agent. All of these modules include an entire dashboard and section for the different alerts, information, dashboards, and so on. I want to show you, for example, the compliance graph, because here you can see the different compliance requirements. I don't know, let me use GDPR, and I want to show you the module that I was talking about. So you can see that, okay, we are inside the Red Hat agent, and now within the GDPR module. And I can see here the top GDPR requirements, okay, with the rule distribution, with the top five agents. Maybe I want to change the time range, I don't know, the last 7 days. You can see how it changed. In case that I want, I can customize the report information. For example, I want to filter by a specific agent. In case that I want, I can unpin the Red Hat agent so I can summarize the information for my entire environment. Okay, here we have the controls tab, so I can see the top requirements. And here we have the events tab. It's the same as previously. I can identify the different alerts, but in this case, here we have the detail with the different compliance requirements. In this case, GDPR, okay? Yeah, another important thing, we have this capability of generating reports. So if I click on this, I will be able to generate PDF reports based on the different aspects of Wazuh, different modules, including compliance requirements. So once the report is ready, I can go to management and reporting. And here we have it. This is GDPR, this is PCI DSS, etc. Let me take a look at this one. And here I can download it, okay? So GDPR reports. Important thing here, we can customize this logo and descriptions according to our branding data. So it means that I can change the logo according to my company, and the same thing with the descriptions, okay? So this is customizable as well. GDPR reports. Here we have the different filters. We are filtering data by this specific agent. Here I can see the IP address, the groups that this agent belongs to, the filters, the time range, the requirements, most common GDPR requirements, alert found, okay, the graphs, visualizations, and at the end, the last alerts, okay? This is like a summary, so I can see the count of alerts. Very, very interesting module and report. Now, I would like to show you, we come back here within the same agent, the Red Hat agent, okay. And let's continue with something different. FIM. It stands for File Integrity Monitoring, okay? And this is the module that I mentioned can help us to monitor some directories and files, even on real time. And I think that it'll be better to show you how it works with a real scenario. So I will go to the File Integrity Monitoring section. I will filter the last 15 minutes. And now, this is the Red Hat machine. Yeah, Red Hat machine. So let me use my terminal. Here we are, okay. My terminal, the first thing that I need to do is sudo. Okay, in this case, I have this module configured to monitor the root directory, but I can define various directories at the same time with even different scan types, okay? Schedule one, for example, after 20 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. In this case, this is real time, so you will see how it works. So let me move to the root directory. Since I'm monitoring this one, root directory, here we are. And I can start with, let's say, a file life cycle, okay? So we can start creating a file. Let's do it. We can now edit the file with a hello world. Hello world. And we can remove the file, right? So we are completing the file lifecycle. All right. And I can see, yep, perfect. I can refresh this. And you can see how immediately we receive the alerts about what happened in that directory, okay, in root directory. I can see here the top active users, the actions, events, the files modified, etc. Here we have this section, inventory. Here I can check all the files that we are currently monitoring with the file integrity monitoring module, okay? All these files are being monitored right now. I can see the last analysis, the last modified, the user, the file hash, the file size, and so on. But now I want to go to the events tab, because here I can see that we received 3 alerts, okay? The first one says, let me zoom this a little bit. The first one says, okay, test file. This file was added in root directory, perfect. The second one, modified, and the last one, deleted. So let me take a look at this one, modified, okay? So I can scroll down and show you the information that we are collecting with this module. We can start here, the file size. The file size before and after, right? The same thing happens with the hash of the file, before and after, the file permissions, the path, the directory, okay? The syscheck mode, this is the scan type that I'm using. In this case, who data is on real time. It's real time, but also it's providing me the information related to the user, and I will show you in a second. The difference, this is great because I cannot just receive an alert with the detail, hey, this file was modified. I can also identify exactly what changed in the file. So since this was a new file, it changed from 0 or let's say nothing to hello world, okay? This is great for configurations files and also for Windows registry. So we can exactly identify what changed in the file, okay? Changed attributes, this is like a summary. The process, okay, Beam, I used Beam. And this is the part related to the who data scan. And I can see here the login user was a user, and also the effective user, okay, root in this case. What else? How it is related with the MITRE framework, store data manipulation, and the tactic impact, okay? So great module. Since we are here, I think 2 more things about Wazuh's capabilities. Let me do something totally different. I will use my terminal again, and with different, I mean, I'm going to download a virus, okay? Let me do it. I'm going to download the iCar virus. As you may know, this is a virus that we can use just for testing purposes. So let's do it in the same directory, the root directory, and I can see that the file, the virus was downloaded, okay? But what happened if I list the content in this directory again? You can see that the file is no longer here. The virus is no longer here. So this is weird, right? I didn't delete the file. So let me refresh this so we can see what happened here. And I can see the iCar virus was added in root directory. Perfect, I did it, but I didn't delete the file. So let me take a look at this one and let's perform a basic forensics task to verify what happened here. Let me see. Okay, deleted, who data, the agent, where it was, where it is located, blah, 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 file deletion, data destruction, okay, great, fire times, but this is the information most important for me at this moment. The process that deleted the file was the active response module of Wazuh. And as I mentioned, the active responses are the main part of the XDR section or capability of Wazuh. And to explain how this works, let me show you. I think that I have my documentation right here, active responses. Active responses, and I can explain with this diagram. On the left side, we have the endpoint. On the right side, we have the Wazuh manager. So the file was eliminated thanks to the active response module, because what this module does is perform automated actions to address active threats, okay? In this case, it was deleting a virus, deleting a threat, a file. but it could be something like restarting the agent, starting an antivirus scan, isolating the file from the network, or sending the file to a sandbox, something like that, okay? There are various actions included by default. So, but one of the greatest things about this module is that we already include some actions, okay? But new ones can be created using Python, Bash, or PowerShell. So it means that based on some alerts, I can define the script to execute, and I can define what I want Wazuh to do, okay? So you can see that there are various actions included by default, but to give you another example of a custom one, maybe based on a brute force attack alert, I want to send a SSH command to my perimeter firewall, to my FortiGate firewall, for example, so I can block that IP address right there, okay, on the border. And I don't need to repeat the action for all my different endpoints, workstations, and so on. That is an action that can be created using Python, for example. In my case, I made it using ChatGPT. So I always mention that you don't need to be a dev guy in order to create this script. These are really simple scripts, actually. It could be something really simple as a reboot command. So based on this specific Wazuh alert, I want to reboot the machine, and that's it, okay? Very, very, very simple. So this is active response, okay? But how we can see or how we can detect that this is a malicious file? Let me show you the VirusTotal integration. As I say, this is just one example, VirusTotal, one example of a threat intelligence feed. But I can use any other threat intelligence feed that is available, okay? Even open source, free of charge, etc. But I want to show you this one. The test file that we just created, it wasn't detected as malicious, okay? This file, not malicious, but the ICAR virus, it was detected as malicious or dangerous by 66 of the 71 total antivirus databases of VirusTotal, okay? So I can take a look at this one. This is the source of my threat intelligence feed, and I can see that this file hash was detected as malicious, okay? By all of these antivirus databases provided by VirusTotal, ABA, Cisco, Fortinet, Google, etc. Okay, so great way to identify the indicators of compromises. All right, 1 second. All right. Now I want to show you two more things about Wazuh, and then we can start with the questions. All right. SCA, Security Configuration Assessment. This is the module that I just mentioned that can help us during the process of hardening servers and applications, okay? And you can see that I'm filtering data by this Red Hat machine, so I can identify all the checks for Red Hat, okay, based on CIS benchmark. If I filter by the one that failed, I can see all these different checks. The result failed, and let's take a look at this one. I can see the reason, okay? Why is this important to configure, and what I need to do it in order to fix it, okay? In order to change the state from fail to approve or pass, for example. One more thing here, the different compliance requirements that are associated with this configuration, okay? Very, very interesting and powerful module for compliance requirements as well. So if I'm going to start fixing these checks, I'm going to get a higher score, okay? And there are various checks included by default, but we can also create new ones according to our needs. Since these are YAML files in the back end, it means that I can define my own conditions, my own changes according to my business models, regulations, and things like that, okay? So this is a module customizable as well. The next module is vulnerabilities. Not vulnerabilities, but the vulnerability detector module. You can see that, again, we are filtering data by the Red Hat machine, and I can identify here all the vulnerabilities detected in this machine. Let me switch this to the Windows agent. I always like to show the Windows agent because I can see that I have a bunch of vulnerabilities here, okay? These are divided in critical, high, medium, low, the details right here, the summary of applications. Maybe I want to check the CVE, okay, it's the same thing. And let me show you this one. For example, I can see here the title, the package name, okay, the application name, the CVE, the package version, 80 point something, and the condition, because this was detected as vulnerable, is because there is a new patch available, okay? So I need to install this patch in order to fix this vulnerability, as usual, right? And here we have the different external references. Since we are collecting data from different sources at the same time, we can identify here the different vendors, Microsoft, Canonical, Red Hat, the NIST, and so on. Let me take a look at this one so I can see more information about this specific CVE, okay, about this specific vulnerability, and all the details about it, okay? All right, this is the vulnerability detector module. I will come back here. This is the Windows agent, and I want to show you inventory data. This is a module that I can use basically to summarize the information of the data related to the agent, the inventory of the data, okay? So I can see here my Windows machine, the different configurations, hardware configurations like CPU, core, memory. I can generate the PDF reports, network interfaces, network ports. So I can identify which one is open, network settings, the latest Windows update, the packages or applications that are installed within my agent, okay? Maybe I want to show you Google Chrome, or let's see where the Wazuh agent is. Wazuh. And I can identify that the Wazuh agent is right here, okay? This is the agent that is installed here and collecting information from the operating system and the processes that are running. And I can also generate alerts based on some things like a new application was installed, a new process is running, or someone is trying to open a port, for example, okay? I can receive alerts based on that information. So, all right. There are various things to talk about Wazuh. So now I think that we are ready to start with some questions. So, okay, great. I will be happy to answer any questions you may have about the platform or its capabilities, anything related to Wazuh, okay? So I will be reading your questions, or in case you want to use the microphone, I think it's available. I'm not sure. Probably not, right?
Gerardo, thank you very much for very good, informative presentation. And do we have any questions for Gerardo? Well, I think that everything was very clear, and no one wants to ask any questions. So, Gerardo, once again, thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and have a good day. I'm going to say something in Polish, so thank you very much once again.
Thanks to you, Vecto team, for this opportunity, and for all of you guys for your participation. Thank you so much.
Just a moment, I think that we have goodbye, only goodbye. So. Okay, so szanowni Państwo, bardzo dziękuję za Państwa obecność w dniu dzisiejszym. Bardzo serdecznie zapraszamy oczywiście do kontaktu z nami. Jak Państwo widzicie, no, Wazuh jest bardzo ciekawym, fajnym rozwiązaniem, no, a my ze swoimi kompetencjami jesteśmy w stanie Państwu pomóc właśnie w podniesieniu cyberbezpieczeństwa. Chciałem jeszcze dodać parę słów w temacie bonów na pyszte.pl. Najpóźniej w przyszłym tygodniu powinny pojawić się one na Państwa skrzynkach mailowych, powiadomienia o zasilaniu Państwa kont kwotą 400 zł. Jeśli ktoś już ma takie konto, taka informacja nie przychodzi, ale po prostu po zalogowaniu zobaczycie Państwo na swoich kontach tą wartość do wykorzystania. Także życzymy smacznego. Za dzisiaj pięknie jeszcze raz dziękujemy i życzymy miłego dnia. Gerardo, thank you once again. Have a nice day. Bye.